He goes by several aliases.
I'm the decider.
But his real name is believed to be George W. Bush. Authorities in Switzerland want to question him about human rights abuses. He recently canceled a planned trip there after being tipped off that he could be arrested. The heat is on. Bush has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
This government does not torture people.
Yet last year, he gave authorities a written confession in the form of a book called Decision Points. He is connected to the notorious Bush crime family, and he is associated with criminal masterminds such as Carl Turd Blossom Rove, Donnie the Lip Rumsfeld, and Dick Shotgun Cheney. If you see him, do not approach him. In addition to his other crimes, he is suspected of murdering the English language.
Children do learn.
He was last seen boarding a helicopter marked Marine One and may be seeking work as a motivational speaker. Any information you have on his whereabouts would be appreciated. Thanks for watching, and remember, you can make a difference.
Did I say those words? If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
Yes, and this vice president in Egypt, by the way, this Suleiman guy, this was the CIA's man in Cairo. This was the guy that if you wanted somebody tortured, that's who you called. You called Suleiman, which is why the Egyptian people are saying, no, he has to go too, which is why he's saying, I will go. I'm an old man. You know, he was just anointed vice president by Mubarak a few days ago. Just a few days. Why? Because he's been favored by the U.S. government for being anti-Islamic. And they think that he's a great torturer and he's reliable. But, look, Mubarak's not an idiot. He knew that this Suleiman guy would get an instant, rousing, thing of support, or he thought he would get, a lot of supporters at Langley, at CIA for, protecting the regime that's there. And frankly, this guy is a torturer. He is a world heavyweight champion torturer. The stories of him are written. I mean, Jane Mayer had a book that I don't know who, if you read it, you would have been so sickened by the foreign policy of the United States over the Bush years. But it was called The Dark Side. Let me read you just a little bit of it about Suleiman. She wrote, each rendition was authorized. We're talking about extraordinary rendition, which, by the way, rendition started under Clinton, and extraordinary rendition started under George Bush. Extraordinary meaning that the objective of the kidnapping and the extra legal transfer was not to bring somebody to trial, which is what we used to do, but it was to interrogate them to get actionable intelligence through any means necessary, violating our own Eighth Amendment of the Constitution prohibiting cruel and unusual punishment. However, she wrote, in the mid-90s, Suleiman worked closely with the Clinton administration in devising and implementing its rendition program. Back then, rendition involved kidnapping suspected terrorists and transferring them to a third country for trial. And then she wrote, each rendition was authorized at the very top levels of both governments, the U.S. and Egypt. The long-serving chief of the Egyptian Central Intelligence Agency, Omar Suleiman, negotiated directly with top CIA officials. Former U.S. ambassador to Egypt, Edward Walker, described the Egyptian counterpart Suleiman as a very bright, very realistic person, adding that he was cognizant that there was a downside to some of the negative things that the Egyptians engaged in, of torture and so on. But he was not squeamish, by the way. Technically, U.S. law required the CIA to seek assurances from Egypt that rendered suspects would not face torture. But under Suleiman's reign at the EGIS, Egyptian Intelligence Services, such assurances were considered close to worthless. As Michael Scheuer, a former CIA officer, head of the Al-Qaeda desk, who helped set up the practice of rendition, later testified, even if such assurances were written in indelible ink, they weren't worth a bucket of warm spit.